Real quick, the only ask I could ever have of you guys is to help spread the word so we can help more women lose body fat, build muscle, reach their goals, and feel insanely confident. And the only way we can do that is if you rate, review, and share this podcast. So the single thing I ask for you to do is if you could leave a review. It will take you 10 seconds, and it will mean the absolute world to me and may change the world of someone else.
One of the problems during menopause and the reason that why women suddenly gain weight despite that they are eating and training exactly the same is because during menopause we are much more sensitive to muscle breakdown.
What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the Macro Hour with Nikkiey Stott, co-founder of WarriorBabe. And guys, I am so freaking excited. Even just spending the last 5-8 minutes getting to know these women has been remarkable. It just such good energy all around. And I'm really excited to dive into who we have here today on this podcast episode. Today, joining us is Mahal and Marav.
You got it.
Yes.
Don't tell them you've been practicing in the last 5 minutes to pronounce our names.
Oh, my secret's out. Yes, that's very true. And I'm really excited to have these ladies on. They are the co-founders of Lumen. And I'm sure, as I just said that, so many of you guys have heard this brand in the space. They are experts in metabolic health. They just got their PhDs, or in time gotten their PhDs, and in physiology. They're twin sisters. I mean, if you guys are watching this on video, they look identical. And they're transforming the space and how we understand metabolism, especially during menopause. So I'm really excited for these ladies to share some insights on navigating the stage of life and our metabolic health and metabolic monitoring and all of the things into this space. This is going to be a really epic episode. So ladies, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you for having us.
Of course. You guys, again, you guys bring such good energy. This is going to be so much fun. So let's dive in. First question that I want to ask you guys is how does menopause in your world affect women's metabolism, and why do so many women experience weight gain during this period?
So it's a great question, Nikki. I'm going to start with say that first of all, thank you for taking that women health that topic and put it in the front, because I think that one of the problem that we do have today is that women health is not getting enough attention. And the reason we see it, right? I mean, there is not enough knowledge and understanding regarding how women metabolism is changing throughout the different phases of our life, throughout monthly cycle and throughout menopause. And when we think about it, it basically even makes sense because the technology of measuring metabolism is not accessible. So when there is no a proper technology in order to provide data, so with no data, it's very hard for us to understand what is going on. Mm-hmm. And this also lead us to the second problem, which is lack of guidance, right? So what can we do in order to overcome those symptoms? How we should eat, how we should train, how much sleep we should get during the different phases. This is also something that even the guidance that we do have today are guidance that comes from understanding and research men metabolism. And women are not small men. And I think that, and this is going back to why I started by saying thank you about that opportunity, is that women health, the main problem, and what Merav and I, this is what makes us sad the most, is that is not getting enough attention. So there is lack of awareness about how those changes in metabolism impact our day-to-day. Today, even I think that the percentage is around 50% of women experience symptoms during premenopause. And because they are not aware that those symptoms are due to changes in metabolism,
they are not manage those symptoms. Those symptoms are getting worse once they get into menopause. And those symptoms are weight gain and brain fog and low energy. And it's affected our life, because when we have those brain fog, so we are less able to perform, and we see it with early retirement of women. And this low energy put us in a place where we are less likely to take part in different social activity. So it's damage our relationship with our loved ones. And those changes in body composition, the weight gain, especially in belly fat, is leading women to have a high risk to develop metabolic syndrome, such as diabetic and um,
Cardiovascular disease.
cardiovascular disease, and even cancer and neurodegenerative disease. So one of the main reasons that why Merav and I put the last
2 years of like Lumen journey,
Lumen journey,
12 years.
12 years.
But we started to explore a lot about women metabolism in the last 2 years.
But was to enable everyone, especially women, to have the ability to measure their metabolism in the palm of their hands in order to better understand how their metabolism is changing and take smarter decision and overcome and manage those symptoms such as weight gain.
Nikki, I think we need first to understand that there's a very strong correlation or connection between metabolic flexibility. So it's like our metabolism, our the body ability to rely on fat stores to produce energy and to easily shift into carb burn, um, following, for example, meal consuming containing carbohydrate. And once you understand that metabolic flexibility relates to different chronic diseases, such as, like Michali mentioned, obesity and insulin resistance, diabetic, cardiovascular disease, neurodegenerative disease. It even play a crucial role in inflammation and actually determine our lifespan and longevity. So you understand that our metabolism actually determine where are you in the metabolic health spectrum. And we all know that lifestyle, like the things that we do in our nutrition habits and activity level, sleep pattern, for example, the quality of sleep and how stress and how we live our life regarding how stressed are they, has a direct impact on our metabolism. Yet I think what not all of us aware is how dramatic effect sex hormones have on our metabolism. And women especially experience dramatic hormonal changes during their lives, during the monthly cycle, pregnancy, menopause, premenopause, postmenopause. And what we are able, I think we published it last year, we wanted to examine how different phases of our lives affect our metabolism. So what we showed, we analyzed, for example, data taken from more than 4,000 female Lumen users, and the fact that, for example, Lumen has more than 6 million metabolic measurements. So we are able to get insight on metabolism in a way that no one was able to tell until Lumen, I think, innovated metabolic measurement on a daily basis. And what we showed is that women who experience regular monthly cycle actually exhibit also a metabolic cyclic pattern. So we actually demonstrate that in the first half of the monthly cycle, pre-ovulation, in the follicular phase, we tend to wake up more relying on carbs oxidation. So we actually rely more on carbs to produce energy. It actually means that we are less flexible, because a flexible body will wake up after an overnight fast relying more on fat stores to produce energy. When we looked on the second half of the monthly cycle, like post ovulation in the luteal phase, we show that women
tend to wake up more relying on their fat stores, indicates that they are much more flexible. So think of it like if you have like the first phase of the monthly cycle, okay, we tend to burn more carbs, and then in the second half of the monthly cycle, we tend to rely more on fat stores. And it has, but the nicest thing is that when you try to look what are the hormones that play a crucial role, it actually estrogen and progesterone. So there's a significant reduction, right? Significant, sorry, changes during the monthly cycle, and which is correlate to changes in metabolism.
So there's a lot to unpack there. Thank
Yeah,
you.
a lot, a lot.
No, that was so good. You mentioned a couple of key topics I definitely want to dive into. I've heard you guys talk about metabolic flexibility, and I'm glad that you brought that up because I want to touch on a scenario there and then lead into a couple questions that I have with that. And then the fat to carb way that our body processes that. I'm super curious to know that too as well. I am just in awe with you guys. I mean, 12 years of putting in the Lumen work, which I'm definitely going to ask you guys too about like the technology and like your how this like came to fruition, like to dive into this space which is so niche, to understand some like metabolism is honestly in my opinion something that is able to get to know a human's body so accurately and
Mhm.
how they're going to be able to perform, what aspects of a nutrition are going to be utilized the best for results, but also for optimal health in terms of the brain fog that you were talking about, in terms of reducing any types of diseases in the future from happening. So good. Um, and then the 2 years that you guys just spent getting to know a little bit more about women's metabolism
Mhm.
specifically is super exciting. This journey with you
Mhm.
guys is it's you guys are going to the moon. I love it. So let's imagine this scenario that we've eaten a healthy dinner, we've taken a nice relaxing walk afterwards and managed to get 8 hours of sleep, but despite everything you're doing everything right, you wake up feeling blah, you wake up feeling sluggish. Or you think about training for a marathon. There's women that definitely listen to this podcast that are like, oh, I'm gonna do, there's just like in Kentucky here in the US, it was a half Ironman, so it was like
Oh,
70.3 miles all around.
really?
um
When was it?
it was 2 weekends ago, I believe.
Cool.
Yeah, so the swim, the bike, and the run all equaling the 70.3. So there's people that listen to this that do that kind of stuff. And like everything's, if people are thinking about training for a marathon, everything's going smoothly until one day suddenly like they can't run the same distance, or you're not sure, like, and you're not sure why these things happening, or like some people that are on listening to this too as well are on a weight loss journey and they're losing pounds on a weekly basis, but then they can't figure out why, despite doing the same thing in the same routine, they're gaining weight back.
Mhm.
So those being just a few examples of how our body responds in unexpected ways. um, it often boils down to what I've heard you guys speak about so much in this topic before, and I'm really curious, how can you guys explain what metabolic flexibility is and like how we measure it?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, what is metabolism, right? So
Yeah,
metabolism is
better
like
question.
it's like our body engine. So it takes fuel, carbs or fat, and produce energy from it, ATP.
Mhm.
Now, at the root of metabolism, we have mitochondria. Mitochondria are like those powerhouse inside our cells that able to take carbs or fat and produce energy from it. Now, when we have a healthy mitochondria, it means that they will rely on fat during fasting and during long and slow, steady energy demand. For example, during low intensity workout. So if now I'm going for a long cycling, for example, 8 hours of cycling, so a healthy mitochondria will rely more on fat in order to have that steady energy.
Mhm.
But a healthy mitochondria will also shift to use carbs when I'm eating, for example, a bowl of pasta after a meal, and when I need to have that high energy. For example, even now, when I need to perform, or when I have to have or when I am in high intensity workout. For example, when I'm doing a sprint or when during cycling, I'm suddenly need to have those, I need to climb a mountain. And that moment, the mitochondria will shift to use more carbs because it need that. It's much more easy for her to use carbs as fuel. So this is what defined a healthy metabolism by defining what is a healthy mitochondria. Now, for your question, one of the problem during menopause and the reason that why women suddenly gain weight despite that they are eating and training exactly the same is because during menopause we are much more sensitive to muscle breakdown. Now, muscles are packed with mitochondria. So when we are losing muscle, we basically losing mitochondria. So with less mitochondria, we are less able to burn fat during fasting. And this what lead us to fat accumulation, especially in the belly. Also, with less mitochondria, we have less power to have that boost of energy that we need. So it also, we're going to feel less energy and we're going to feel that we are able to less perform during high intensity workout.
So I just want to continue. One of the things we also looked on our data is women in their menopause, how their metabolism is being affected. And what we show is that in women in menopause actually again tend to wake up more relying on their carb stores. So they actually lose the ability to have a flexible metabolism, and it might be the reasons to the symptoms that Michali just mentioned. When you look, for example, on women in menopause yet taking hormonal replacement therapy, so their metabolism is now shifted like back into relying more on their fat stores. And it's very, it's we didn't measure in the paper I'm telling you about, we didn't measure hormones. Yet when you understand the the changes in those sex hormones in menopause, that for example estrogen and progesterone significantly reduced almost to zero, yet in hormonal replacement therapy there's exactly estrogen and progesterone, and it's like providing them a boost, like to burn more fat. And it makes you think, if maybe you can actually measure your metabolism and get indication whether how effectiveness hormonal replacement therapy on symptoms during menopause.
Understand. So you're saying that basically when women go through menopause, they flip between different fat, like they flip between different storages of using either carbs or fats for their energy to get throughout the day. And does everybody switch, or is it very like in obviously I know it's everyone's metabolism is very individual, but majority of women who are going through menopause flip back to the fat storage is what I'm understanding throughout the day, but utilize the carbs in the morning.
So we didn't test it what happens during the day, mainly on like following an overnight fast.
Mm.
uh, but it's so personal, the how our metabolism affected. It depends on our BMI. Again, we just published a study show that actually the ability to wake up in fat burn depends on our BMI and gender and age and phase of the monthly cycle. And the one whose menopause is like in the phase of if they're in menopause or under hormonal replacement therapy,
And lifestyle.
and lifestyle
So
affect
individual.
everything.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
so
it's all
individual.
it's actually, I think.
I think
No,
I,
go ahead.
I think it will be true to say that um, a healthy body will wake up in fat burn. And when you see that you are not waking up in fat burn, it basically means that the four lifestyle elements, your nutrition, movement, sleep, and mind, are not in balance. And
Mm.
you should take some action. Now, most of us think that everything is around nutrition. So we think, okay, so we should eat less or we should avoid carbs and maybe we should have an early dinner. But as Meravi said, it's really depend because another thing that happened during the menopause is that our cortisol, which is stress hormone, increase. Now, cortisol is a hormone that also serves us when we need to perform. For example, during high intensity workout, cortisol increase push our mitochondria to rely more on carbs, and this is what gives us the energy. But when cortisol is chronically high, the mitochondria is all the time pushing to use carbs. It put on the mitochondria a lot of effort, and she's getting weaker, and then her lifespan is getting shorter. And again, we have less mitochondria, less ability to burn fat. So one of the things that we can do in order to reduce cortisol is to have a diet which is rich in serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter that tells to our brain to calm. For example, diet rich in banana and walnuts and oatmeal. So those kind of things will, to enrich our diet with those, will decrease cortisol and will enable us to wake up more on fat burn.
I love that explanation. I just got done recording a podcast right before I hopped on with you guys, speaking about cortisol and weight gain and how it always happens around the abdomen.
Abdominal.
Yes. And your explanation there is going to feed really well in
Thank
terms
you.
of diving a little bit deeper with the mitochondria and explaining that. So thank you. Which actually kind of brings me to the next topic that I want to ask you guys, how our bodies manage the energy, which is how you guys are like breaking it down in terms of the mitochondria. And if we have good mitochondria, this is how we're going to fuel our body. If we're losing mitochondria, this is what's going to happen. I feel like our bodies are like hybrid cars, right? We're switching between, and you mentioned this a little
Yeah.
bit earlier, carbs and fats as fuel sources, and depending on what we need at the moment. And the mitochondria knows what we need, but we're the ones making the decisions about what fuel to provide our bodies. So can you explain that process, I guess, a little bit more in terms of like, how can we stay in tune with our bodies, particularly as we go, like to optimize our energy levels as we go throughout different stages of life? How can we stay in tune and recognize what's happening?
So our body has two main sources of energy, fat and carbs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, fat are basically fat stores are unlimited. But our body, our mitochondria, will find it much more harder to use fat in order to provide us with the energy. So during fasting, when we need a steady energy, and when we don't have a high energy demand, a healthy mitochondria will rely on fat. And when we need carbs, in carb stores are pretty limited, but it's very easy for us to use it. So for example, as I said before, after a meal, the mitochondria will use the carbs from the meal in order to produce energy. Whereas when the mitochondria is not working properly, it will take the carbs from the meal, will store this as body fat, and will keep burning fat. Now, it's important to say that there are 6 mediators, right, that determine if the mitochondria is working properly or not. So imagine that those mediators are elements in our body that connect between the 4 lifestyle elements: nutrition, movement, sleep, and mind, and the mitochondria. So when those mediators are cortisol, are insulin sensitivity, or muscles, circadian rhythm, CoQ10, and cortisol. I already said cortisol.
Yeah. Glycogen.
Glycogen. Yeah,
Yeah,
those are
there you go.
those are the 6. So all the things that we can do in order to manage those mediators will help us. I will give an example. Glycogen stores our body carb reserve. We want to keep them fluctuation. We don't want our body
Sorry.
carb reserve to be too full, because then we will have too much carbs in our system, and the mitochondria will all the time will get carbs, and then she will forget how to use fat.
Ah,
And exactly the opposite. If we're going to avoid carbs completely, our body carb reserve glycogen will be all the time empty. Our mitochondria will all the time will need to use fat. It also will put on her a lot of stress, and she will forget how to use carbs. And then once we're going to eat carbs, she wouldn't know what to do with that, and our body will store it as body fat. So this is one example how managing our carb intake and how managing our activity, meaning high intensity workout that deplete glycogen all the time, put the glycogen like with those healthy fluctuation. So we all the time want to have them not too full and not too empty.
It's
So
all,
this is one example of how to manage that.
I think it's very important to understand that eventually it's a matter of balance, right? We can tell what is the perfect nutrition, the perfect activity level and stress, but okay, come on, we are human being who can actually really,
Amen.
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 So it's really a matter, of balance. For example, if you're getting, if you, for example, you do a lot of activity during the day, so you need to get more sleep. Or if you like binge a little bit too much, you can compensate it. I think that the understanding that our body is so personal, and there's no one size that fits all. This is part of the magic of measuring metabolism, because then you can take smarter decision in real time, instead of trying to have like following a certain playbook that fits for the majority of the population.
So I knew I loved your guys' energy when we first came on, but like now you're speaking the language of that I speak, and I appreciate it so much. We are definitely in alignment in that regard. Everyone is very unique and different, and there's no one size fits all. The one thing that I loved that you were bringing up is I was hearing that maybe people shouldn't be doing or eliminating one macronutrient. This is the macro hour, so I love talking about protein, fats, and carbs and nutrition. It sounds like if like we were to eliminate fats, no, if we were to eliminate carbs, our mitochondria wouldn't like that because it's depending so much on one other macronutrient, and it's not a good balance to be doing. And then vice versa, if you take out fats and you're having all these carbs, then your mitochondria is going to go one way, and it's not going to be an ideal balance either. So what's your guys' take on like keto and like low carb and all that kind of stuff?
Mm. I try to be politically, how do you say it, politically
So
correct.
look, I can say, even from a personal point of view, I'm today 43. I'm measuring, I'm breathing into Lumen and measuring my metabolism for almost 8 years.
Yeah.
Yes. And it used to be that low carb was very beneficial for me. I did like personal carb cycling. I ate more carbs on days that I had resistance training in order to support muscle recovery. And in days that I have low workout intensity, I ate like almost zero carbs. And today, from the moment that I celebrate 40, I see that not only that I need more carbs, I also much more have a benefit from a dinner which is rich in carbs. And the reason for that is that when you are starting premenopause and menopause, or the more you're getting, older, you are much less insulin sensitive. This is what this cause us to sleep disorder. So one things that I mentioned is that cortisol is increased. This is what caused us to find it hard to fall asleep. The second is because we are less insulin sensitive, it causes us to, even when we are falling asleep, to have those drop in blood glucose level during the night. And this is what caused us to wake up, even if we are not noticed that this is what happened, but this is what happened. So when I'm eating a meal that is rich in carbs, complex carbs, accompanied with protein, it stabilized my blood glucose level during the night. And then I'm having much more a good night's sleep. This is support my body sync. Now it's much more in sync. So I'm having a good night's sleep. My mitochondria is getting a rest during the night. And now when we wake up in the morning, those mitochondria has the energy, which we see it by waking up in fat burn in order to have that energy to support me throughout the day. I'm experiencing much less drop in energy, much less craving. So to your question, what is my opinion regarding, low carb, high carb, carb cycling? It depends on the different phases of our life. It depends on the activity level that I am. It depends on the stress. So today I work much harder than I used to work 10 years ago. So cortisol is much higher. When cortisol is higher, it pushes my mitochondria to use more carbs. So I need to eat more carbs in order to support that performance, high performance day after day. So
I think it's
I don't
also
have an agenda. Sorry, I don't have a clear answer for you.
No,
It
I
depends.
appreciate your personal
Depends,
opinion.
no,
Nikki.
but
I appreciate
Nikki,
that.
I also think that I'm calling it like having fun, when I have 3 kids, and part of the fun day that we do is ordering pizza on Tuesday. There's for this on Tuesday, everybody at home, everybody, no friends, no, and yesterday we ordered pizza. And I think eventually, we had a user named Bernadette that one of the feedback she provided us, and she reached out to me personally, and I was so exciting to hear. She told me, like, for example, it's not only a matter of losing weight, but the ability to have control and to have the balance of those nutrition and activity and sleep and mind, as Michali mentioned, and eventually to be able to do things that you love to do. I love it to eat pizza, and I don't want to have a low carb for the rest of my life, and I don't want to do
Amen.
keto. Yeah, I want, everything eventually is a matter of how you adjust and how you also be able to maintain a healthy lifestyle, and not, for 3 4 days and then like, I cannot do it anymore, and then you go and eat the fridge. So I
Yeah,
think this it's also,
exactly.
everybody talk about what is the best sababa, but also what am I willing to do and really to incorporate for a long period. um,
Yes, amen. Yeah, long period of time.
Restrictive is never good. Something that you going
Restrictions.
restriction is never something that is working for long term.
Yeah, amen. You gotta have the protein, fats, and the carbs and the right balance of what you need for your body. I totally agree with you guys. It's all about long term finding a sustainable approach that isn't gonna make you cut out any of the key macronutrients, drive yourself crazy because you can't have pizza when you want the pizza, and you're causing just more restriction. And then your brain's gonna. It's like me telling you guys not to think about a pink elephant. What are you guys thinking about right now? It's like
I
I
want
want
the
the
pizza.
pizza.
Eventually, I'm going to eat the pizza.
Just
And
don't
Exactly.
eat the pink elephant.
Exactly. Ladies, are you feeling frustrated with body changes you're experiencing during menopause? It's time to take control. If you're between 45 and 65 years old and tired of struggling with body fat and muscle loss, WarriorBabe is here for you. At WarriorBabe, we've helped over 18,000 women just like you lose body fat, build toned muscle, and understand their bodies better with personalized plans based on hormone and thyroid testing and more. Imagine knowing exactly what your body needs to see real results and results that last. Look, don't wait anymore. Take charge of your health and join our community of strong, empowered women. Visit warriorbabe.com/apply today to start your transformation. That's warriorbabe.com/apply. All right, let's get back to the show. So let's bring it back to the mitochondria, because I love you guys said it perfectly, and I agree with this. That they are their muscles have these little fat burning powerhouses, and that is the mitochondria. And the mitochondria are like the cellular plants, power plants that are responsible for the production of energy. So it's the mitochondria that the fat gets metabolized, right? Too, as well, as you guys were sharing. So I'm thinking that people may be listening. How can they get more mitochondria?
Wow.
Uh,
So more mitochondria, when you have more muscles, you have more mitochondria. So in order to have more muscles, you need to incorporate resistance training as part of or as your routine. Now, I know that it's not that aerobic session is not good for us, but in order to build muscles, you need to lift weight in order to have those small tears in your muscles, so your muscles will grow. Another thing that you need to pay attention is to have one, enough carbs in your system before you're doing the workout, because as I said before, women are much more sensitive to muscle breakdown. So if we're going to train hard without having enough carbs in our system, our body will take the muscles, break them down, convert them into carbs, and use that in order to produce the energy that we need in that session. So we are basically going to break down muscles instead of building muscles. Another thing that we need to pay attention is that after the workout, to feed the muscles, we need to be nice to our muscles. We need to feed them with protein and with carbs and with fat in order them be able to grow like children. We need to grow
Yeah, I
them
think we
like
need to
flowers.
understand that, we need to be in an anabolic state. And for this, we need not to be in a with caloric deficit. And we need to provide a lot of protein and carbohydrate in our diet.
Did I
Amen.
answer your question, Nikki?
Yes, 100%. You totally did. You have the way I take that is like you need to be giving your body a reason to create more of these little power plants, more mitochondria. To create more of that, in order to do that, you have to be strength training. You have to be putting some more intensity behind your workouts. You have to be challenging yourself with weight that's actually putting intensity behind it, right? Because there's a lot of women that are in our community specifically that kind of like to just go through the motions with their workouts. Like they get there, they show up, and they're like, "Hey, I'm here doing my workout. Here's like 5 pounds, doing bicep curl." And I'm like, that 5 pounds isn't gonna really, it seems like you're doing something, but you're not really putting your body through the stress that it needs and the intensity that it needs to do what you guys are talking about, the science in our bodies of creating these types of things and results in mitochondria and all of the jazz. So that's the way I take it. Like we need to create more of it, and that way you do that is by not just the intensity of the workouts too as well, but also by giving your body the fuel and the nutrition that it needs to do the things, right?
Yes, I also think we need, on the one hand, you want to increase muscle mass. On the second, and another thing, you don't want to lose muscle mass. So, for example, doing a very high intensity and not like eating properly. This is one reason that can cause to muscle breakdown. But I know, for example, today there's a lot of intermittent fasting strategy. And this is also something we need to be very careful with. It's a great strategy, but we need to manage it very carefully. It's not, I think it's not a healthy to wake up one day and say, okay, today I'm going to fast for 16, 18 hours, because again, our body will shift into fat burn, but then in a certain point, it will, cortisol will increase, our body will get into a stress mode. And what will happen is that our body will break down muscle mass to produce this energy. And eventually we will get the opposite effect from what we wanted to.
Thank you. Yes, it's kind of
Yeah,
in
Nikki.
that sense. This is so nice having like you guys say the same language, and like this is gonna be good for the listeners because like they can listen to me all the time. But having two other women that have PhDs that have wealth of knowledge in the space say the same thing, I'm like, yes, preach. It's like the opposite effect what women want. Like they don't want to lose muscle mass, especially like the women that are in WarriorBabe and listen to the podcast. Like they want more muscle. They want to be more toned is what women say. And I'm like, well, in order to get more toned, you have to build more muscle. In order to build more muscle, you have to do all these things that you guys are aligned with on as well. So that's
Also, Nikki, that more mitochondria also mean longer life. So you're having when you have less mitochondria, so what basically is happening that you're also getting high risk to metabolic disorders, disease, and gradually you are getting away from those quality of life and this vision of ending your life healthy. I mean, you can end your life healthy and live longer with
Out of healthy
with
metabolism.
healthy metabolism and healthy mitochondria. So this is like for the big picture. The small picture is weight loss and weight gain and energy level and brain fog. But in the high level, it's really, we're going to live longer and happier and healthier life.
Amen to that too. And plus, like on top of that, the more muscle that you have, which is like the more mitochondria, right? Then Dr. Gabrielle Lyon says, muscle is the organ of longevity.
Exactly.
So
She's right.
yeah, yeah. So the more muscle mass that we have and longer year, we're gonna live
Oh, I
longer
like
years.
this term,
Yes.
Yeah, me
organ of
too.
longevity. I like
Yeah, I
it.
always tell because our women in our space or in our community are like 45 to 65 years old. So I'm like, guys, go lift weights, please, because they're afraid. They don't want to. They haven't really been taught how to strength train or do
Mhm.
resistance training and do some high intensity stuff. And that's what I just they need to do more of that in order to add more years to life, in order to build muscle, in order to have more mitochondria, and plus more mitochondria, as you guys have said, is more fat being metabolized, right?
Exactly.
So more muscle mass on your body, it's easier to burn more fat.
And also more ability, to handle the carbs that we eat. So for example, someone with high mitochondria, one of the things we demonstrated is that women who is like metabolically healthier tend, following an carb meal, tend to better use the carbohydrate they just consume to produce energy. So in a sense, okay, what happens if you're not metabolically flexible, the glucose will stay longer in your bloodstream, and in time you also will develop insulin resistance and diabetic. So you like will be unable to use the carbohydrate you just consumed to produce energy, and it will also go into fat accumulation. So it's all connect.
Yeah, it is all connected. It's pretty
The bottom
fascinating,
line,
right?
the more metabolically flexible you are much more able to keep burning fat without being in a caloric deficit, and you are much more able to eat more carbs without risking in weight gain. So it's like you gain from both sides.
It's also fascinating. It really is. So I guess too, let's bring it to like the exercise, like, well, no, I'm going to save that. Let's bring it to the exercise during menopause, because I think that's something like in women that are listening to this and in our community are 45, 65 years old, like I just shared. And when you enter the perimenopause and menopause space, many struggle with that weight gain despite doing all the things that they're doing right. And while with muscles that we just talked about, housing our mitochondria, if they're decreasing and they're losing, like estrogen drops, their bone density drops, they're losing muscle mass, they're losing the energy powerhouses. The decline makes fat burning and maintaining their energy levels way more challenging, right? So how can they combat this? I think we already kind of maybe walked through this with strength training, but I guess it's helping women increase muscle mass. Like how can they enhance fat burning? How can they boost energy levels? You mentioned the sleep, and there's other couple pillars. What are some aspects of that too, outside of strength training, that women can help to, maintain this more when it becomes more challenging during those years? Does that make sense? My question I'm
Yes, perfect.
asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we mentioned, what we can do in order to support our muscle mass, which is um, training and make sure that we consume enough carbs and protein.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing is that we need to keep our circadian rhythm, in sync. Our circadian rhythm is like our body clock. It affected by day and night. It basically tells our body when is the good time to rest and to recover to our
Mm-hmm.
mitochondria, and when it's a good time to produce energy. And when it's out of sync, the mitochondria don't have the time to recover during the night. And also it will shortening their lifespan. So the things that we can do in order to keep our body sync, our circadian rhythm, in sync, is things like everything that is around our sleep. So avoid screen before going to bed in order to keep it in sync. Um, Things like having that meal before going to bed, which is rich with complex carbs and protein in order to stabilize our blood glucose level, in order to have that better sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Things like food which is rich in serotonin in order to decrease cortisol and make it much more easy for us to fall asleep. Those are the things that we can do in order to keep our circadian rhythm in sync. Another thing is all what we can do in order to improve our insulin sensitivity. So here we have the focus on complex carbs, because when we eat simple carbs, it's all the time there is like a spike in our blood glucose, which is followed with drop in our blood glucose. In insulin is like getting crazy. So focus on complex carbs. It's also helping us to stabilize our blood glucose during the day, which helps us with the insulin sensitivity. And again, activity, and be active during the day, even if it's not a workout session, not in the gym, going up the stairs, parking your car 10 minutes walk from where you need to get. Those small movement during the day, what it does, it helps us with insulin sensitivity, because it's open a gate. What is that gate? It's open GLUT4. GLUT4 is like a gate on our cells, that when we move more, that gate is open, and then glucose from the blood find it much more easier to go inside our cells and be used by our mitochondria. So it's like bypass the insulin, and then we need less insulin all the time in order to manage our blood glucose level. And in that way, it helps us to keep insulin sensitivity high. Did I answer your question, Nikki?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you did. Well said. Because I think a lot of women struggle with sleep. And I think that's really important in terms of getting the circadian rhythm down. A lot of women only sleep like 4 or 5 hours, maybe even 6 max. And they're so busy going throughout the day. And then, that leads to hormonal fluctuations in terms of creating like bad habits in terms of eating food, and then all the insulin levels and all the cortisol spiking and everything like that. Yeah, it totally made sense. I'm curious, like, tell me about Lumen a little bit more. How, the device, like right, it tells you exactly about your metabolism. Explain the technology behind that.
Oh, so actually, it's pretty simple, because when our mitochondria use carbs to produce energy, it releases more CO2, carbon dioxide, to the blood, versus when mitochondria is using fat to produce energy. So, by measuring into lumen in a specific maneuver, which is we are guiding you to inhale a specific amount of air, hold the air in your lungs for 10 seconds, and then exhale. By asking you to hold your air in the lungs for 10 seconds, the carbon dioxide in the blood reach to equilibrium with the air in the lungs. And now when you exhale, we measure the carbon dioxide in the exhale air, which is basically an indication to what is happening in your blood, which is an indication to what your mitochondria is now using for fuel.
Lumen,
so this is the trick.
Yeah, but Lumen, we didn't invented metabolic measurements. Metabolic measurements is something that's being used since the 60s in hospitals and top clinics and a lot of research institutes. Yet the measurements is very it takes a lot, really, really robust. The technology itself is very, very robust. Sorry. It takes about 45 minutes. You're supposed to lie down. Sorry. For example, 45 minutes covered with something like an astronaut. And then
You need a physician. Take an air. Breathe.
and now hold the breath. It's the air conditioning here. You put it on 20
I
something
know. I don't know. I feel hot today.
Maybe you start premenopause.
Maybe. Look, it's almost 40 degrees
43,
here in
you just turned
Israel.
43, right?
Yes.
You both are 43. You're twins.
Yes. But, I don't know what is the weather where you are, but in Israel, it's 40 degree now, Celsius. It's hot. It's crazy here. So I'm
hear
sorry.
you. I don't know.
okay,
Celsius.
I will
It's about
survive.
85 degrees here right now. So I don't know Celsius though, but it might be the same. It's hot. I hear you.
Oh. Well, anyhow, so the technology. already being used since the 60s. What we were able to do is actually, first of all, to minimize the technology to something very, very beautiful. Maybe you have here the Lumen device.
No, I don't.
It's a size of a palm, very
Mhm.
beautiful one. And I think that, and the most important thing is we were able to shorten the time of the measurement. So instead of 45 minutes, you're able now to take it in only one breath. You just inhale, hold, and exhale through the device. And of course, Lumen was validated with multiple studies. And then it enables you to measure your metabolism on a daily basis and take smarter decisions in your lifestyle. Because up to Nuben, like it's not feasible really, to go to a clinic and do a 45 minutes of metabolic measurements. It's something you cannot incorporate in your life.
Now, what we are providing with that measurement is, if to summarize, and we know that a healthy mitochondria is using fat when we are in fasting condition. So by waking up in the morning and measure your metabolism, you basically get three things. One, you get an insight whether your mitochondria is healthy today. If you see that you are burning mostly fat, you know that the four lifestyle elements, nutrition, movement, sleep, and mind, all your action are in balance and you are on track and you can keep going. If you see that you are burning mostly carbs, you get the understanding and insight of what in those four lifestyle elements is the reason for that. So, because that measurement is sensitive to nutrition, movement, sleep, and mind, Lumen is able to track and to connect the dots if it's because that you're not getting enough sleep, if it's because that you ate too much carbs, or maybe it's because you ate your carbs late in the day, or maybe you're just, you work too hard and you're in stress. So by giving that insight, you are able to take smarter decisions. So, for example, Merav can wake up in the morning and carb burn. I can wake up in the morning and carb burn, but Lumen will tell Merav that she needs to sleep more. And for me, the recommendation will be that I need to consume less carbs today. So the reason behind might be completely different. So by measuring your metabolism in the morning, provide you an insight about how your lifestyle affect you and allow you to
Mm.
take smarter decision for that day. And as we mentioned before, there are also different questions during the day that by measuring your metabolism, you can get an answer. So by measuring my metabolism before a workout, if it's intense workout, I can understand if I have enough um, available carbs in my system to support the workout. So if I will see that I'm burning mostly fat, I will know that I need to consume some carbs. The app will guide me that I need to eat some carbs, for example, an apple or a banana, in order to support my workout and avoid muscle breakdown. I can also measure my metabolism after a meal to see how the food that I ate affect my body and how well my mitochondria is now metabolizing the food that I just ate. So there are many questions during the day that just by measuring your metabolism, Lumen is able to give you that answer.
That's amazing, that technology. I need to give this Lumen a try. So curious though, so you're saying measuring your metabolism, totally hear you and totally agree on that. Measuring it a couple of times throughout the day. What is a realistic number for someone to like take their Lumen out and like test where the metabolism is?
So the main measurement is like morning fasting, like
Morning.
following an overnight fast. And then, but as Michali mentioned, there are several, it really depends on the segment. Like who are you? For example, if I'm a person who do a lot of exercise and I want to prepare my body well for the workout, so I will take the pre-measurement breath. And then I can also take the post-workout measurement, and to see how well my body recovered from the workout. If I'm doing an intermittent fasting as a strategy, so I can take again the morning measurement, and then I can take every, for example, hour or two a measurement to see if I'm still shifting toward fat oxidation, and not getting, for example, into stress mode, and my body will shift back into carb burn. So there's a lot of measurements you can also use tailored to your specific lifestyle, and yet the main one is following an overnight fast in the morning. Now, it's important to say that, you breathe into Lumen is like, it's a system, it's a device that connects to an app. So you measure your metabolism through the device, but the app is guiding you and give you the insight and the recommendation. So although, I can talk about metabolism and explain about mitochondria and what you should do when and why. Some of us, just it's too much at the beginning of their journey. I mean, not all of us have all those, not all of us study PhD in physiology, so we are well practiced in all of those. So the app is keep it very simple. So you wake up in the morning, based on your measurement, Lumen will provide you with a daily nutrition plan of what you should eat today: carbs, protein, and fat. It takes into consideration your activity level, your monthly cycle, whether you are in menopause, even whether you are taking GLP, which is like a kind of Ozempic, which in that drug, we are even more sensitive to muscle breakdown. So we are taking all this data in order to support you with the daily macro. So it's very easy to use.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. So it'll tell you, like, okay, you wake up in the morning and you're in a fat burning state, which is ideal. And then it can tell you, like, depending on if you're in a good, like, metabolism state, what your breakdown of carbs and protein and fat should be for the day.
Exactly.
And will that change regularly?
Yes, because Lumen is like, it's all the time we learn. We have an algorithm in the backend that all the time learn how your metabolism responds to the daily macro. So based on that learning, we all the time, it's like there is a feedback loop. We are all the time learning and we are all the time adjust. And it also, as we all know, that on days that I run a marathon, I need to eat different from days that I'm not. So if we understand that, we also understand that on days that I'm not having enough sleep, we should consume more carbs in order to avoid those craving later. So all of this Lumen is taking into consideration and adjust it on your daily routine. So every time you wake up, we're doing the adjustment and we provide you with the adjustment plan.
That's super cool. Okay, so we have a link too, which I'm going to go use the link and use the 15% off. If you guys are interested, I'm going to put this below, and I'm also going to share it here. If you guys are, after this conversation, I mean, there's so much insight and so much knowledge that you ladies bring to the table in terms of metabolism, metabolic health, metabolic flexibility, mitochondria, all the M's. And ultimately, for longevity, for our health, for long-term, for disease prevention, for results. And so, you guys can check out, if you want to get in control of this and learn what this device is all about, which I'm going to go do, head over to lumen.me/macro hour. So LUMEN.me/macro hour. And there's a special offer that you guys can get a hold of using the code macro hour at checkout and getting 15% off your purchase, which I'm going to go do right now. I'm going to check this thing out. I'm interested to see how it is. And then shoot, maybe even like this could be potential put in like every WarriorBabe VIP's welcome on board or something like that. There's a Lumen in their box or something. Anyway, that's just me brainstorming. Ladies, thank you so much for being here.
Nikkiey.
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys so much and sharing your insight. That was
so
much fun. So much fun. You took the words right out of my mouth. Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. And everybody listening, go check out that code and check out these ladies. They're freaking amazing. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Nikkiey. Bye.
Hey, guys, real quick. If you're interested in taking your body to the next level, lose body fat, build more muscle, feel more confident, do it alongside one of our 30+ professional coaches. Work one-on-one with her to eliminate all of the guesswork that you may have. And all you need to do is just do the work that she tells you to do to get to those goals of yours. Now, to learn more, click the link below this podcast and apply to our VIP program right now.